There's no denying it, the monarchs of the United Kingdom are deep into their twilight years. With that reality comes a flurry of speculation. What happens next? Who takes the crown when they're gone? King Charles III may have officially stepped into his role at the grand coronation on May 6, 2023, but behind the scenes, the fairy tale was already starting to crack. It was just another Tuesday at Buckingham Palace. Staff polished silver, florists adjusted bouquets, and everything appeared ordinary. Until it wasn't. A shout echoed down the centuries-old corridors, a voice unmistakably belonging to King Charles. It wasn't just any outburst. It was the kind that makes seasoned staff freeze mid-step. At first glance, it seemed like a typical morning. Charles enjoyed his organic porridge and Earl Grey. Camilla, calm as ever, reviewed her daily itinerary. But beneath the stillness lurked tension, weeks of hushed conversations, exchanged glances, and subtle unease among the palace staff. Something was off. And whatever it was ready to erupt. This wasn't some minor squabble. This was a betrayal, calculated, personal, and deep enough to rock the monarchy at its core. It all traces back to something seemingly insignificant. A small item. A missing object that most wouldn't even notice. But Charles noticed. It was a ring. Not one of the dazzling crown jewels, not some ceremonial trinket, but a private, powerful heirloom. It had been on his hand for over 50 years. A symbol of legacy, of bloodline, of memories no camera had ever captured. And now it was gone. That disappearance? It lit the match. And what followed will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the royal family. Because Queen Camilla's next move? It changed everything. And this is only the beginning. Forged from the rarest Welsh gold imaginable, the ring bore the ancient crest of the Prince of Wales. Its craftsmanship was flawless, each line, each curve carved by artisans who knew they were shaping history. It had passed from king to king like a sacred vow. Commissioned by King Edward III, worn by King George VI through the war, then by Prince Philip in his service to the crown. Charles, too, had worn it faithfully, through marriage, through heartbreak, through decades of waiting to become king. Until one morning, it vanished. He reached for it as he always did, but the ring wasn't there. Not misplaced. Gone. As if it had never existed. Panic surged. This wasn't just a missing heirloom, it was a rupture in identity. That ring had bound him to his lineage, to everything he was and was meant to become. Losing it felt like losing a piece of his soul. And worse, someone had clearly been in his private quarters. This wasn't just loss. It was violation. The palace erupted into lockdown. Every room was scoured. Footage combed through. Staff questioned. It wasn't just a search, it was a siege. They dusted for prints. Checked every log. Even brought in sniffer dogs trained to detect precious metals. The ring hadn't simply slipped away. It had been taken, deliberately, by someone who knew exactly where to look. This had all the markings of an inside job. And while Charles was unraveling, Queen Camilla wasn't. She remained composed. No, more than composed, eerily serene. She moved through her routines as if nothing had happened. Some assumed it was grace under pressure. But others, especially the staff, began to whisper. Because Camilla wasn't just calm. She was cold. She looked almost smug, as if she knew something no one else did. When security questioned her, she didn't resist. She answered everything calmly, even politely. But there was a rehearsed quality to her words. Her alibis checked out, technically. Still, they felt empty. And oddly, not once did she ask how the investigation was going. Not once did she show curiosity about the missing ring or the palace whispers swirling behind closed doors. But that wasn't the only strange thing happening. While the mystery deepened, Queen Camilla was quietly rewriting the rules. When she married Charles back in 2005, Everyone knew the script. She was to stand beside him, not ahead of him. The supportive wife. That's what was expected. But over the years, and especially recently, things began to shift. First, it was subtle. She started attending events alone. Then came unsanctioned interviews, decisions that blindsided senior aides, and uninvited opinions during state matters. The old palace staff noticed. They saw her cut into Charles's private briefings. They watched her rearrange his schedule without approval. What was once quiet confidence now felt like open dominance. And then came the bombshell. The official royal website updated her title. She wasn't Queen Consort anymore. Just Queen. To outsiders, that might seem like a minor tweak. But in the world of monarchy, it's seismic. Queen Elizabeth II had made her wishes clear. Camilla was to be known only as Queen Consort, out of respect for the past and public sentiment after the Diana years. It was a boundary. One Camilla just stepped over. Once called the other woman, Camilla was now, officially, the Queen. Not just in name, but in behavior. Why the change? Was she finally stepping into her power? Or had she gone too far? Because behind the scenes, she was doing more than claiming a title. She was meeting with government officials without Charles's knowledge. She was making public statements not cleared by palace PR. Quietly, systematically, Camilla wasn't just rewriting her role. She was reshaping the monarchy itself. And no one, not even Charles, seemed ready for what came next. Camilla had started stepping into spaces once reserved strictly for the king. At a state dinner with visiting European leaders, she didn't just smile and nod. She led conversations on foreign policy, speaking with a confidence that stunned guests. Charles, seated beside her, looked uneasy but remained silent. Palace aides later confirmed this wasn't an isolated moment. Behind closed doors, Camilla had been steadily asserting herself, not just as consort, but as the one quietly pulling the strings. She was making executive decisions, forging relationships without Charles, and even reworking his schedule without asking him. In private meetings, she'd speak over him, correct him, or contradict him in front of staff. The tipping point came during a meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury. Charles began sharing his thoughts on a sensitive religious topic, something deeply personal. Camilla interrupted, disagreed outright, and confidently offered her own view. The Archbishop later admitted he had never seen a consort challenge a reigning monarch like that. But what truly shattered the royal balance was what she did next. Without telling Charles, Camilla agreed to a prime-time television interview, one of Britain's most watched news programs. In one of the palace's grandest rooms, dressed to perfection, she sat down for what looked like a routine conversation. But it was anything but. Camilla didn't just speak about the monarchy. She spoke as if she was the monarchy. She outlined bold plans for modernizing the royal family, talked about change, adaptation, and relevance. And shockingly, she did it all as if she were the architect of that vision. She revealed intimate conversations she'd had with Charles, even shared details about his health and private worries, things he believed were between them. She spoke with the poise of a leader, not a supporting figure. The tone was clear. She was steering the ship. While she described their dynamic as a partnership, it was evident who she thought was in charge. The interview was polished, strategic, and powerful. She came off as modern, warm, and deeply invested in the country's future. But to those watching closely, including Charles, it was a calculated power grab cloaked in charm. Behind her flawless appearance, Queen Camilla was making a move that would rock the monarchy to its core. When Charles saw the interview, just like everyone else, on television, he was blindsided. This wasn't just a breach of privacy. It was a breach of trust, of loyalty, of the very vows they'd built their future on. By morning, Buckingham Palace was in chaos. Phones rang non-stop. Ministers, foreign leaders, senior royals, everyone wanted answers. But the biggest question of all lingered in silence. Where was Camilla? She hadn't returned that night. No one had seen her. Charles, normally so composed, was unraveling. He paced the halls, demanding updates, checking his phone every few seconds. The staff, stunned, whispered behind closed doors. The king was cracking. Then, just past noon, she arrived. Camilla swept through the palace doors like nothing had happened. Regal, untouched, unbothered. Her outfit was pristine, her chin high. But her eyes, there was steel in them. Some said she looked calculated. Others, resolute. Either way, she didn't flinch. Without a word to anyone, she walked straight to the room where Charles waited. He didn't hold back. His voice trembled as he spoke of betrayal, duty, and the promises they'd made. "How could you?" he said. "How could you do this to me, to us, to everything we've built?" She didn't interrupt. She let him speak. She stood still, silent, unreadable, until he was done. And then, finally, she answered.
"I did what had to be done," Camilla said, her voice cool and even.
Someone had to take control. Charles didn't flinch. He asked one question, quiet, sharp, and utterly unexpected. "Who took my ring?" Silence fell like a guillotine. Every breath in the room vanished. Camilla didn't blink. Then, slowly, she reached into her handbag, pulled out the ring, and placed it on the table between them. When she finally spoke, her words were icy calm. "What belongs to the king is mine." The shock on Charles's face said everything. This wasn't just about a missing ring. It was about a boundary crossed, a silent war now made visible. The ring didn't just sit there. It pulsed with meaning, trust broken, power seized, love twisted into something unrecognizable. "You took it," he whispered. "I took what should have been mine long ago," she replied. "What you were too afraid to give." In that moment, the truth hit like thunder. Camilla hadn't just taken a ring, she had taken a stand. Years of being sidelined, years of living in the shadow of another woman's legacy, had brought her to this moment. The betrayal wasn't just of Charles, it was of everything the ring represented. To understand why she did it, you'd have to go back to the years when she was the outsider, the scandal, the woman blamed for ending the fairy tale. She had always been drawn to the ring, not for its beauty, but for what it symbolized: acceptance, legitimacy, power. She asked to wear it. Charles refused. She suggested resizing it. He declined. She even offered to make a replica. Still, he said no. To Charles, that ring was sacred. His lineage, his legacy, his right. To her, it was a constant reminder that she was never quite enough. And so, one day she took it. Not as a thief, but as a woman done waiting. In her eyes, she'd earned it. Not through marriage, but through endurance. Public scrutiny, personal sacrifice, and unwavering presence had earned her a place in that family. She didn't need permission anymore. That single act shifted everything. Charles didn't see his partner anymore. He saw a rival. And since that moment, the signs have been impossible to ignore. Camilla has quietly faded from public life. No statement, no explanation, just absence. Events she once headlined now pass without her. Dinners, charities, engagements, she's nowhere to be seen. Whispers have turned to speculation. Is she retreating, or being pushed? Inside the palace, the tension is undeniable. Something has broken. And all because of one ring, and a queen who finally stopped asking. Charles is still carrying out his royal duties, but something is different, noticeably so. Those around him say he's quieter now, more reserved, and far less emotionally open, especially with Camilla. Once his most trusted confidant, she now seems to be on the outside looking in. The king has begun leaning more on senior advisors and longtime staff. He's even taken back tasks that Camilla used to manage, personally reviewing his schedule, vetting interviews, and overseeing public appearances. This isn't just about a rift, it's a shift in power. A once equal partnership is slowly becoming cold and distant. No official word has been given, no explanations offered. Just stiff photo ops and the quiet disappearance of the warmth that once defined their relationship. They used to be a united front. At public events, they moved as a team, sharing looks, standing close, radiating mutual understanding. Camilla once said that she and Charles had always gotten each other. They'd endured public scorn, endless Diana comparisons, and the pressure of blending families. Through it all, they appeared unbreakable. But that image has cracked. Now, when they're seen together, it's all posture. They keep their distance. The spark, the subtle, knowing connection is gone. Long-time palace staff, trained to notice even the smallest shifts, have quietly remarked that everything feels off. The rhythm of royal life has changed. Meetings are shorter. Dinners quieter. The easy private moments they once shared have turned into stiff formalities. Cold, rehearsed, and empty. They often eat in silence now. Staff members say mealtimes have grown heavy, each person lost in their own thoughts. And then there's the ring. Charles has it back, but he no longer wears it in public. For a man who wore it faithfully for over 50 years, that quiet absence speaks louder than any statement. Some believe it's a silent protest. Others think it simply hurts too much. But royal watchers have noticed. Photographers have captured close-ups of his bare finger. The missing ring has become as powerful as its presence once was. A symbol of something broken, something unresolved. And then, there's Camilla. According to palace insiders, she hasn't budged an inch. She doesn't see taking the ring as wrong. Not theft. Not betrayal. To her, it was a declaration, one she felt was long overdue. After years of being treated as an outsider, of enduring press attacks and subtle palace snubs, Camilla saw the ring as something more. A final piece of validation. A claim to a role she believed she earned, not just as Charles's wife, but as queen in her own right. Friends say she was tired of being the shadow. The ring was never about gold or diamonds. It was about being seen, being respected, being equal. But that move, while perhaps empowering for her, has left many wondering. Was it confidence or quiet rebellion? Camilla may have crossed an invisible line, one guarded by royal tradition, by centuries of unspoken rules. And in doing so, she may have shaken the very foundation she fought so hard to be part of. Now, beneath the polished surface of palace life, deeper questions remain. Was this marriage ever a true partnership? Or was Camilla always chasing a crown that would never quite sit right? The ring may be gone, but the cracks it revealed are impossible to ignore. The rift between King Charles and Queen Camilla hasn't just shaken their marriage. It sent tremors through the entire royal family. Long-standing alliances are unraveling, and decades of carefully built trust are starting to fracture. Prince William and Catherine, poised to inherit the throne, are watching it all unfold with cautious eyes. They've remained publicly neutral, but behind palace walls, the tension is undeniable. Their bond with both Charles and Camilla is under strain. Family gatherings that once offered warmth and unity now feel like cold, diplomatic negotiations. Every glance is analyzed, every word weighed. Even the palace staff, long trained in discretion, are feeling the pressure. Some have quietly asked to be reassigned. Others have simply walked away, unable to endure the emotional minefield any longer. Though the royal household has tried to maintain a veil of privacy, the outside world is picking up on the cracks. Camilla's public appearances have noticeably dropped. Social media is buzzing with theories, and while traditional media treads carefully, the speculation keeps growing. In the absence of any official statement, the silence is loud. Whispers suggest that Charles and Camilla are living separately. Some say divorce talks are already underway. Others think it's all part of a strategic rebranding of the monarchy. The public is torn. Some sympathize with Camilla's ongoing battle for acceptance, while others see her as a disruptor of royal norms. But most are simply puzzled, left piecing together rumors with no real clarity. Will they weather this storm, or are we watching the slow unraveling of yet another royal marriage? Will this scandal fracture the monarchy beyond repair? Or is it the beginning of something entirely new? Right now, all we have is silence. No statements. No denials. Just rehearsed appearances and an eerie absence of unity. And that silence, it's only making us more curious. So if you want to stay one step ahead of the royal drama, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Because what's coming next might change everything. Like and subscribe the channel for more interesting updates about the royal family.